Good evening to you all, and let's start the lecture on law of sea and maritime law. Today it is week 4 and lecture 2. So we still are continuing with the judgment on Qatar and Bahrain case. So last time we were discussing how the various issues that are related to Hawar Islands and also related to the low lying elevations that were yet to be decided, and on what reasoning. With regard to the Hawar Islands, we have already discussed how the court, taking into consideration that historically it has been under the control of Bahrain, under the Kingdom of Bahrain. So Hawar Islands basically belong to Bahrain. But down to the Hawar Islands, there were two important islands, that is Janan and Had Janan. Although they were quite closer to Hawar Islands, but so far as the influence on these islands are concerned, historically Qatar has maintained its influence. So therefore, the court has decided that Janan and Had Janan, although being closer to Hawar Islands but do not belong to Bahrain, they belong to Qatar Islands. So we start from there. With regard to low tide elevation, the court, after noting that international treaty law was silent on the question whether those elevations should be regarded as territory, found that low tide elevations situated in the overlapping area of territorial seas of both the states could not be taken into consideration for the purpose of drawing equidistance line. So low tide elevations were not considered for drawing equidistance line, means that the court has not considered it as an island, and they therefore need to be divided equally. So I repeat this: these elevations should be regarded as territory, found that low tide elevation situated in the overlapping areas of territorial sea of both the sea could not be taken into consideration for the purpose of drawing the equidistance line. So that means low tide elevations were excluded for any such equidistance line to be drawn. That was true for Fashat ad-Diblal, which both the parties regarded as low tide elevations. The court then considered whether there were special circumstances which made it necessary to adjust the equidistance line in order to. So then the court's point was whether there are certain exceptional circumstances, like here they have stated special circumstances which may be necessary to adjust the equidistance line in order to obtain an equitable result. Now let's see what it means by this. Fashat ad-Diblal, that was a low tide elevation. So here we see the map of Fashat ad-Diblal, and this is the low tide elevation. If we consider this for the purpose of equidistance line, that means we need to draw, firstly we need to understand to which country it belongs to, and then based on the part of the country, the question arises whether the equidistance line that is drawn between Bahrain and Qatar, it should be after this position, like it should go like this, or it should exclude this portion and simply we draw the line like this. So it has excluded, it has not covered the low tide elevation for the purpose of considering the equidistance line. Rather, they have asked if there are other such issues that can be considered as special circumstances. Those special circumstances can be considered. Now those special circumstances are dealt with when an equitable result has to be concluded. Now equidistance line that we have already discussed, that they have proposed, is here between Bahrain and Qatar. Let's understand a little bit more. To the south of Qatar, how it was decided. To the south of Qatar Peninsula and to the west, south of the main island of Bahrain, is Saudi Arabia. Basically, the Saudi Arabia, which was the key mediator between the Qatar and Bahrain prior to the matter being referred to the international court. So, and they also had territorial claims in the sense that it was also the question of Saudi Arabia's ships passing through Bahrain and the Qatar waters. While the North Shore is part of Iran, so Iran, because it's a part of the Persian Gulf, so Iran lies closer to it. Bahrain is composed of number of islands and islets. The main island is Al-Awal, often called Bahrain Island. So main island is called Al-Awal. Zubaira is in the northwest coast of the Qatar Peninsula. Just a minute, I'll show you where lies the Zubaira. Zubaira is somewhere, we call it as Al-Zubaira. This is here. So that is again, yeah, here it is Al-Zubaira. That is very important. Rather, the main island, as they have stated, main island is named as Zubaira, and Bahrain is just like the another name of this place. Zubaira is in the northwest coast of the Qatar Peninsula, opposite to Al Alwal. The Hawar Islands are the immediate vicinity of the central part of west coast of peninsula. To the southeast is the main island of Bahrain and much closer to the main island of Qatar. So this is how finally the lines are drawn, demarcating which part belongs to the Qatar, which parts belong to the state of Bahrain. Now the court, how it has concluded, the court unanimously find that state of Qatar has sovereignty over Zubaira. Zubaira we have just now seen in the slides. I once more show you this Al Zubaira, that is here. If we see the main island, which was the point of contention between the parties, that is Al Zubaira. This is Al Zubaira. Okay, this is the first thing. So, court has unanimously decided that this belongs to Qatar. And the claim was between Bahrain and Qatar, where Bahrain was stating that named tribes, they are living here, and named tribes basically belong to the Bahrain tribes. But the named tribes, they are basically minority community. Historically, they have been traveling to this place and they have occupied some part of Al Zubaira, but still they are not in majority, and mainly it is under the control of Qatar, therefore it belongs to Qatar. This was the finding unanimously, that state of Qatar has sovereignty over Zubaira. Then by 12 votes to 5, that means there was also dissenting viewpoints where 12 votes of the judges were on one side and the 5 votes on the other side, finds that state of Bahrain has sovereignty over the Hawar Island. So that was another very important issue. Where is the Hawar Island and how it belongs to? Let's see. So these are the, just I'll show you the Hawar Island. These are the Hawar Islands. Okay. And this, although if you see the map, the other map, these are the Hawar Islands. Okay. Now, if you give a closer look to the map, this belongs to closer to Qatar, but they are not part of the Qatar basically, and as it has been decided, they belong to the state of or kingdom of Bahrain. The third point unanimously recalls that vessels of the state of Qatar enjoys the territorial sea of Bahrain, separating the Hawar Islands from other Bahraini islands, the right of innocent passage accorded by customary international law. Now the question rises that Hawar being closer to the state of Qatar, but belonging to the kingdom of Bahrain. So the narrow channel of water that divides the Hawar Islands with the Qatar state. So how that can be used? Whether the ships from the state of Qatar, they can pass through without seeking the permission, or can there be a treaty initiated, or can there be a treaty system established where the ships from both the parties, they can travel through those places. So how the court has decided unanimously recalls that vessels of the state of Qatar enjoys the territorial sea of Bahrain. So therefore, as per the rulings of the court, the Qatar does have the right. Its ships can pass through the state of that water of the state of Qatar. The territorial enjoys in the territorial sea of Bahrain, separating the Hawar Island from the other Bahraini islands, the right of innocent passage accorded by customary international law. So that right which the state of Qatar does have, although as a matter of innocent passage, both, and also the right for its ships to pass through the waters that are closer to that of Hawar Islands, although Hawar Islands belonging to Bahrain, sustains the state of Qatar does have those rights. And those rights are through the territorial sea. What is important to understand here, through the territorial sea of Bahrain. So this is kind of the decision given by the court for equitable results. Then next, by 13 votes to 4, finds that the state of Qatar has sovereignty over Janan Island, including Had Janan also. Now, this is also very relevant. Where is Janan and Had Janan? This is Had Janan, Janan and Had Janan. And they are just down below the Hawar Islands. So, and Hawar Island belong to Bahrain. But the question arises whether they belong to, that was also the question here, whether they belong to Qatar or to the kingdom of Bahrain. So the court here has decided finally that they belong to the kingdom of Qatar, although closer to this area, Bahrain, Hawar Islands, but they actually belong to the state of Qatar. By 12 votes to 5 finds that the state of Bahrain has the sovereignty over the island of Qatat Zirda. So Qatat Zirda is another island. That is another question of contention. So whether that belongs to the state of Qatar or Bahrain. So it was decided that Qatat Zarda that belongs to the state of Bahrain. Now where is Qatat Zarda? You need to understand this also. It is somewhere here, you see. This is Qatar and this is Bahrain. So it is here, Qatat Zarda. It shows here. It is located midway between the main island of Bahrain and Qatar Peninsula. If given effect, it will create disproportionate effect to the boundary line. The ICJ decided to give no effect to Qatar Zarda in drawing of the territorial sea boundary between Qatar and Bahrain. But otherwise, it stated that state of Bahrain has the sovereignty over the island of Qatar Zarda. Now there was a reference of Iran. So where lies the Iran here? You can see that this is Qatar, this is Bahrain, and here on the other side of the Persian Gulf lies Iran. This side of the Persian Gulf, closer to the Qatar Peninsula, lies Saudi Arabia, and to the western side is the state of Kuwait, and then further there is another country, that is Iraq. So the boundaries and all this area, they are very rich in the natural gas and petroleum product. You can see the other map also. This is the map for defining the states. So the Persian Gulf, and there is here Qatar, and then there is a state of Hormuz, which divides between Dubai and Iran. The other map, just for further clarity, that how the territorial water lines are drawn. So here it is Saudi Arabia, and the line that crosses, or the boundary line between Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, you can see this is drawn like this. All right. This is Al Zubaira, the island. There is an island here. Okay, keep this in mind. And to this island, Bahrain has been making the claim. This we have also discussed here. So another map, you can see this is the important city Doha. All right, so now with this, the court has decided, given its decision of the very complex boundary division between the state of Bahrain and Qatar. Now we come to another important topic in this discussion on law of sea and maritime law, that is exclusive economic zone. So far we have discussed about the territorial waters, contiguous zone, that is another 12 nautical miles, and then we come to the exclusive economic zone. Now, how this distinction is drawn? Because the kind of rights that are available up till territorial waters, they are the sovereign rights. Then the kind of rights that are available to the contiguous zone, they are of lesser sovereign rights, and exclusive economic zone, there are simply economic rights available to the coastal states. Economic rights means the right to exploit the natural resources that are available in the sea waters all across the exclusive economic zone area, or even to the subsoil level. So it goes up till the vertical level also. Article 55 of the UNICLOS defines what do we mean by the term exclusive economic zone. So it is specific legal regime of exclusive economic zone. The exclusive economic zone is an area beyond and adjacent to the territorial sea. So it's closer to the territorial sea, and then further it extends beyond the territorial sea, subject to the specific legal regime established in this part, under which the rights and jurisdiction of the coastal states and rights and freedom of the other states are governed by the relevant provision of this convention. So basically it depends whether in the neighbor of the exclusive economic zone there is high sea or the other coastal state. So if there is another coastal state, then the division between the exclusive economic zone and the territorial waters of another country will be subject to the equitable distribution. I can show you the map also. Let's give a look to, okay, I'll show you in the next lecture the map on exclusive economic zone. So what it is, exclusive economic zone is an area beyond and adjacent to the territorial sea. Like if this is the coastal area, so this is territorial water area. Beside this territorial water is the contiguous zone, and then we have exclusive economic zone that stretches beyond this, and further it is we have high sea. All right, and let's say if there is another coastal state over here, okay, then how we determine the extent of exclusive economic zone? So then the territorial water of this another coastal state is like this, then after territorial water contiguous zone is like this. So this exclusive economic zone between these two will be midpoint, somewhere midpoint, like part of it will go for this state and part of it will go for this state. It cannot be disproportionate. Sometimes it can be disproportionate depending upon the extent of coastal state. If this state, that is state A, does have a larger coastal line in comparison to this, so then the state will get the higher extent of the exclusive economic zone, or the rights to use the resources all across from contiguous zone and territorial waters and exclusive economic zone. So that is subject to various other conditions. There is rights, jurisdiction and duties of the coastal state in exclusive economic zone. What kind of rights? As I have stated, that primarily up till territorial waters they have sovereign rights. Beyond territorial waters they have lesser kind of sovereign rights, and after territorial waters up till the exclusive economic zone area there are further even lesser rights, or rights of lesser, let's say, competence. But there are rights, and that rights the coastal states can enforce. So what are the rights? Rights, jurisdiction and duties of the coastal states in exclusive economic zone. In exclusive economic zone, the coastal states have the sovereign right for the purpose of, so they have sovereign right for the purpose of exploring and exploiting, conserving and managing the natural resources, whether living or non-living, of the waters superjacent to the seabed and of the subbed and subsoil, and with regard to the other activities for the economic exploitation and exploration of the zone, such as the production of energy from water, currents and wind. So these are the kind of rights. First is the right of exploration, exploitation, conserving and managing the natural resources. So let's say this is the exclusive economic zone area. This goes vertical up till down. So all the finding out the natural resources up till this place, and then exploiting the natural resources, and conserving, that means using and also protecting, and managing the natural resources, whether living and non-living, of the waters superjacent. That means if this is the seabed area, so above up till all this, these rights are covered under the exclusive rights over the exclusive economic zone area. Superjacent to the seabed and its subsoil, and with, so it goes down below even up till the subsoil level. And with regard to other activities for economic exploitation and exploration of the zone, such as production of energy from water, currents and wind. So these are the extent of rights that the coastal state does have over the use of exclusive economic zone area. Second is jurisdiction as provided for in the relevant provisions of this convention with regard to, then is the extent of jurisdiction that the coastal state does have with regard to the establishment of use of artificial islands. So very importantly, the artificial islands are also somewhere here in the exclusive economic zone area, installations and structures, marine scientific research, protection and preservation of marine environment, other rights and duties provided in this convention. So the artificial islands that can be installed somewhere there, established somewhere in the exclusive economic zone area. Similarly, the other installations and structures. Other installations can be the equipment for the signals, or let's say some other special equipment that are requirement for the communication purposes. Though all that installations can be done at the exclusive economic zone area. Then the marine scientific research by that nation can be done to the extent of exclusive economic zone area, protection, preservation of marine environment. So all this is up till the extent of exclusive economic zone area. Then is other rights and duties provided for in this convention. In exercising its rights and performing its duties under this convention in the exclusive economic zone, the coastal state shall have due regard to the rights and duties of other states, and shall act in a manner compatible with the provisions of this convention. Now what does it mean? It need to take into consideration the rights and duties of the other states. So let's say this is state A and this is state B. Okay, that means here it is A and B, and this is the territorial waters, this is contiguous zone, and this is the exclusive economic zone, or this is the territorial waters and contiguous zone. So the exclusive economic zone here lies up till this point for the state B, let's suppose so. Or it can be somewhat closer to the exclusive economic zone area of A. So here, so far as the natural resources are concerned, the midline merges. Midline is same for both the states. So what will be the extent of the rights for using the oil and natural gas, or exploiting the oil and natural gas and petroleum? Now that has to be sorted out, keeping in mind the rights of state A by the state B, or rights of state B by the rights of state A. So here, in exercising its rights and performing its duties under this convention in the exclusive economic zone, the coastal state shall have due regard to the rights and duties of other states, and shall act in a manner compatible with the provisions of this convention. That means they need to take into consideration the comprehensive picture that is drawn, or the comprehensive objectives that are drawn by this convention. So it can't be that this decision is taken simply in favor of state A or in favor of state B, but otherwise not taking into consideration what are the objectives of this convention, or how this objective has directed to settle the matters. So all that has to be taken into consideration when these rights over this exclusive economic zone area is decided between the parties. Then is the rights set out in this article with respect to the seabed and subsoil shall be exercised in accordance with Part 4. Then is the breadth of exclusive economic zone, that means to what extent the exclusive economic zone area extends. So the exclusive economic zone shall not extend beyond 200 nautical miles from the baseline from which the breadth of territorial sea is measured. So what is the extent? Now again I draw the map. This is the coastal state, and here we draw the baseline. This is the baseline area, and this is the territorial water area, this is the contiguous zone area, and this is the, up till here it is the exclusive economic zone. So if we measure from this point, that is the baseline point, to this point, that is the outer stretch, okay, this point to this point, for drawing the exclusive economic zone. The total distance or total measurement should not exceed 200 nautical miles. All right, it should be within that is the maximum reach up to which we measure the exclusive economic zone. But otherwise, it can be lesser than this, okay, depending upon the rights of the other parties. But the maximum is 200 nautical miles. Then is rights and duties of the other states in exclusive economic zone. That is, in the exclusive economic zone, all the states, whether coastal or landlocked, enjoy, subject to the relevant provision of this convention, the freedoms referred to in Article 87 of the navigation and overflight and of laying of submarine cables and pipelines and other internationally lawful uses of the sea, related to these freedoms, such as those associated with the operation of ships, aircraft and submarine cables and pipelines, and compatible with other provisions of this convention. Now, what are the rights of the other states? That is, other states mean the non-coastal states, or the states other than where the exclusive economic zone lies, non-coastal states. That means, let's say, the landlocked states. So what are the example of landlocked states? Afghanistan is one such example. Nepal is another such example. So let's again draw the map, small map here. This is one of the coastal state, and here is the, let's say this is the territorial waters contiguous zone, and we finally draw the exclusive economic zone over up till here, okay. So various kind of rights are there. Since this state A, it does not have this, it has absolute right up till this point, but it does not have the absolute right up till the exclusive economic zone, okay. So what are the kind of rights it does have, and what are the rights of the other parties or other countries they have over this area? So in the exclusive economic zone, all states, whether coastal, let's say this is another coastal states, but this is a landlocked state, okay. This is the coastal state. So they will also have somewhat right over here. This country will also have some kind of rights over here. So in the exclusive economic zone, all states, whether coastal or landlocked, enjoy, subject to the relevant provisions of this convention, the freedom referred to in Article 87 of the navigation and overflight, and of the laying of submarine cables and pipelines, other internationally lawful use of the sea related to those freedoms, such as those associated with the operation. First is, they do right have the flight of aircraft over this area, okay. So this state, the aircraft of this state can fly over this. The aircraft of this, although a landlocked country, can fly over this. That is the first thing. Then they can put the submarine cables, okay. Subject to the relevant provision of this convention, the freedom referred to in Article 87 of navigation and overflight. Overflight is one thing, and then of the laying of submarine cable is another kind of right. Then pipelines, okay. The pipelines are for the, here they can install the pipelines. These are like for oil exploration or the trade of oil. Then there are laying of submarine cables, pipeline, and other internationally lawful uses of sea related to these freedom. Or they can use other non-listed categories of activity, but that should be within the premise of the international law, and it should not affect the kind of rights that this coastal state does have. Operation of the ships, aircraft and submarine cables and pipelines, and compatible with other provision of this convention. So it should not be somewhat independent of the unique laws. Then is Article 88 to 115 and other pertinent rules of international law apply to the exclusive economic zone insofar as they are not compatible with this part. So then in case they are not compatible, then the other kind of rules that are covered under Article 88 to 115 of international law will be applicable. In exercising their rights and performing their duties under this convention in the exclusive economic zone, states shall have due regard to the rights and duties of the coastal state and shall comply with the laws and regulation adopted by the coastal states in accordance with the provisions of this convention and other rules of international law insofar as they are not compatible with this part. So what the states are required to, like, this is the coastal state and this is exclusive economic zone, and other states, they are using the exclusive economic zone of this area. So they have to regard the rights that this coastal state does have over this exclusive economic zone area. So in exercising their rights and performing their duties under this convention in the exclusive economic zone, states shall have due regard to the rights and duties of coastal state. This is the coastal state to which this exclusive economic zone belongs, shall comply with the laws and regulations adopted by coastal states. So they are also supposed to follow the right rules and regulation. Let's say they have the special rules for security measures across this area, so they must be complied by the other states using the exclusive economic zone in accordance with the provision of this convention and other rules of international law, so far as they are not incompatible with this part. But all that they are supposed to follow, it should not be incompatible with this part of the unique laws. So with this, I thank you very much for being with us and being part of this discussion. Thank you.